After about 4 hours, I 100%ed Scars Above. I beat the game on the hardest difficulty and obtained every achievement, so let's discuss if this short sci-fi game is worth your time. As always, remember to like and sub, it does help the channel a lot. A mysterious monolith has appeared over Earth. A team of scientists led by Richard Robertson has been charged in investigating the structure. This includes Mike Yoshida, Tamara Coleman, and protagonist Dr. Kate Ward. Things don't go as planned as their ship is caught in a gravity well and they plummet towards the monolith. Kate wakes up and finds a living biome within the structure and quickly gets caught up in a life and death mission where her team and Earth could suffer at the hands of a dangerous creature. The narrative has all the hallmarks of a science fiction epic: alien life, grotesque situations, and deadly encounters. There are enough twists to keep things interesting until the very end, such as how Kate can die and come back to life. The game weaves this into the narrative instead of just giving it as a reset checkpoint situation. Kate is stressed about it, but finding her team takes priority, along with stopping the main threat. The supporting cast outside of Kate and her companion rarely gets any screen time, and instead come and go when the story calls for them. Kate herself is a good protagonist. She's strong-willed and empathetic. Despite the stress of everything she's dealing with, there are times where it overwhelms her. These situations are rare, but allows Kate to breathe and puts the stress on the problem into context. This prevents her from turning into a Mary Sue who can just deal with every life and death situation. And even if the player doesn't die a lot, in context to the narrative, she has been dying a lot due to the devastating nature of the situation. She's not a soldier, she's a scientist after all, and she's just dealing with it with the best of her ability. So the idea within the game is that she's been dying constantly and just has to deal with the situation at hand. She's a realist and understands whatever is happening has to take a back seat until she finds everyone that she cares about. The main antagonist itself can fall a bit short. When you have the grand revelation of who is responsible for everything, I felt like they could have done a better job of conveying the villain instead of just turning them into a generic bad guy. There are a lot of things that they could have touched on that deal with sci-fi and the idea of being alive, such as who created it, why it's doing this, the purpose of its creation, and what it would do even if it completed its task. Like, what would be the afterthought of it? It doesn't really put into context about why it's doing it. It's just doing it because it was created to do it. And if they touched a little more on that, it could have given the final bad guy something to latch onto. But the ending is satisfying. It serves as you beat the big bad guy and everything gets solved. But the final boss is a letdown. As you can see, the developers ran out of time and budget and just tried to put whatever they can together based on the assets they had. The ending itself does have a bit of a cliffhanger, but for the overall context of the story, it ends on a pretty solid note. Scars Above is a third-person action RPG. Kate is armed with Vera, a modified 2 that can shift into 4 options that you collect throughout the game. This includes Shock, Fire, Ice, and Corrosive. Shock is your standard blaster, Fire launches balls of fire, Ice hurls ice shards, and Corrosive works like a shotgun. Each weapon has its own elemental function, and dealing enough damage will cause a status effect such as Shock, damage over time, and freezing for slower movement and extra damage. Only the Shock Blaster and the Fire Laser gain a secondary option where one shoots a laser and the other one shoots a fire laser, so it's pretty cool, but I never used it because it was far weaker. Each element can be combined with added damage, and outside elements can increase elemental damage, such as the creature being wet, which will increase freeze buildup or shock damage in an area of effect. It's a pretty decent system, but it doesn't go anything beyond that. The enemy pool is okay. This is an indie game, so the developers had to reuse assets and animations to create variations of the same enemies, but ultimately they are well designed for alien creatures. Each has that alien look with eldritch horror mixed in. You can scan them for more discoveries, and Kate offers her own input on the creature, adding an extra layer of lore while complementing Kate's character as she provides her own insight of what the creature would be like based on her own scientific knowledge. Combat is hard at first, but over time Kate gains access to gadgets that make things way easier. This includes shielding to absorb damage, gravity wells for reducing enemy speed, and many more. This includes defensive options as well, like eliminating status effects, which you're going to have to deal with, healing over time, and creating decoys. The developers did add some Souls-like features like a stamina meter for sprinting and pillars that act like bonfires. These replenish your health, ammo, and gadget charges, but reset all enemies. You don't gain levels in the traditional sense by killing enemies, but instead by obtaining knowledge cubes. Earning enough experience and you can level up one of two categories in defensive or offensive options that are separated into 4 tiers. There's also a crafting system, but in reality it's just an upgrade system where you gain more upgrade charges for whatever weapon you have. Shooting is okay, but it's pretty stiff. It doesn't have the same precision as Gears of War or Mass Effect, but it does the job. There's no cover and you're meant to run and shoot quickly. Switching weapons is easy enough by using the control pad, and gadgets are easy to select by a dial system. If you die, you end up at the last pillar you were at, and there are shortcuts that you can unlock in order to get to your position much more quicker, and since levels are condensed, the run back is very quick. If things get too easy or too hard, you can change the difficulty at any time if you're having issues. There's also a type of investigation system that's similar to Batman Arkham Knight, where Kate starts to identify a problem or situation and reconstruct the entire event, which is pretty cool, and I wish they did this more, but it's very straightforward. You don't just get the solution quickly, but you just have to click every single interactable item within the environment, so it's decent enough. On paper, this does seem like a really good idea, but the RPG elements are the ones that hold back the game. This is due to a large number of knowledge cubes that are required in order for you to level up, and by the end of the game, since I collected all the knowledge cubes, I had up to 12 unusable points. I get the point of this is to give you more than you need, but it just became such a chore when you have to get all of them for the achievement. I think if they made the game more action focused and you were given upgrades as you progress through the game, it would have had a lot better effect, but granted, this game is only about 5 hours long. Maybe it was done intentionally just to pad out the experience a little more, or maybe add some small exploration, even though that's very limited. And the game is mostly linear, so it was a little bizarre that they decided to go in this direction. Maybe it was just for context of the world, or give you a better understanding to probably find different areas that you otherwise would have never done. This doesn't mean all the collectibles are knowledge cubes. You can obtain upgrades for Vera and audio logs. The logs were the best part of the collectibles as they add insight into the adventure, and I would have preferred they had more of these. You learn more about the custodian, you learn more about your teammates who have been exploring the world. It's just an overall much more better experience. I think they should have ditched the knowledge cubes and just focused more on audio logs. The game is separated into 6 chapters that will take you through a swamp, a grass field, and a mountain. Only the cold areas have environmental hazards in the way of extreme cold, where you get hypothermia if you're exposed to it for too long, requiring you to shoot plants that emit large amounts of heat to prevent death. There's no map, but the levels are designed well enough that you'll understand where to go all the time. You won't have access to anything that's too complicated in terms of navigation, but there's a waypoint that always tells you where to go, and since the levels are well designed, you won't get lost. There are no side missions, so your main objective is always the goal. It's clear the developers did have to cut corners though in the gameplay department, considering how well crafted the cutscenes are. There are some strange animations, but the game never crashed. Largely you'll play Scars Above for the story rather than the gameplay, but the developers did a good job nevertheless given their limited resources. Scars Above was clearly made by a team that cared about what they were making. In an industry attempting to remain safe, it's refreshing to have a game like this. The environments are well designed, combat was average, but they tried their best for what they were given, and most importantly, the game respected the player's time. Despite the massive amount of knowledge cubes in this game, the game never attempted to pad out the experience extensively with a clear objective within reach without repetitive busy work. The story kept pace by delivering important details and didn't overwhelm the player with lots of lore dumps, and instead focused on key points of the overall narrative. If you're a sci-fi fan like myself and looking to scratch that itch that was left behind by Mass Effect, Scars Above is definitely something you want to check out. It's a really good sci-fi adventure and something I thoroughly enjoyed from start to finish. If this game gets a sequel, I definitely would buy it on day one.